It's evident that the remake pulses to a different rhythm than the original. The gameplay is faster, more aggressive. It's a reimagining that hits all the main beats of the story, but makes it feel more serious and embedded within horror, aligning better with Resident Evil's past without abandoning the campy roots the original RE4 was known for. Things may go off to their own tempo, but never to the loss of identity. We play as Leon Kennedy, assigned the mission of rescuing the president's daughter Ashley, last seen in the Spanish countryside. Our arrival is met by a murderous welcome, the people controlled by a parasite, Las Plagas, by their cult leader. Even if they aren't zombies, it essentially reduces the populace into this game's version of them. But unlike Raccoon City, Leon isn't a rookie cop anymore. The guy has undergone extensive military training, setting the tone for, like his one-liners, the game's action. The difference to the game's combat is something that can be observed from the start, but what took me a while to note was the extent. New from classic RE4 are free-form movement and in-the-moment weapon swaps. Those two were immediate, like the change in visuals, but it wasn't until I got the sniper rifle that it dawned. 8 weapons can be mapped, almost the entire number row on PC, and it's as glorious as it sounds. Soldiering in on a vicious mob, dispatching enemies left and right, shifting the weapon like the strategy on an emergent threat. Damn, is it exhilarating. Especially since the enemies aren't pushovers, reminding you of the detail with each sustained strike. It only takes a couple to be brought into a critical state, so there is little room to spare efficiency. Headshots and melees are everything. One other thing that made me smile with the sniper rifle, it can be wielded without a scope. Going FPS to indulge the mayhem. I cannot overstate how dynamic a change it makes for me. It became my default weapon in my first playthrough, rupturing heads at all ranges, especially close. That's not to discount the other weapons either, with nearly all of them making a return from the original. The Red Nine Handgun was my favorite, the sole gun I needed to rescue Ashley in the past. It doesn't feel as powerful now, nor is it sold by the merchant anymore. You'll find it out on a shipwreck after the Del Lago boss fight instead. Maxed out and unlocked, it's devastating. For other means of crowd control are grenades, with both hand and flash making a return. The incendiary grenade is out in lieu of a heavy grenade, a bit redundant but effective. Lastly is our trusted knife, used to parry, get out of grabs or thwart and attempt at a second win. You can even use it to stealth kill. It has durability that can be repaired, but you do find lesser knives to wear out first. As you can see, we have a literal and metaphorical edge to rescue the president's daughter with, something that must be kept sharp to see it through. All our main gear can be upgraded, including the knife and the attaché case to carry it all by the merchant. He does pale to his past self, that even with his old lines, lacks something to endear him.
Over here, stranger. Got something that might interest you.
Still, he remains invaluable for improvements, selling treasures and old gear. New on offer for the remake or trades. If you remember shooting blue medallions in the past, that sort of request is spread out throughout the game, earning you spinels for select goods. They were something I went out of my way to fulfill on my first playthrough, but being ranked by the game by how fast you clear it, something I've come to ignore unless they're en route. Again, you do want any edge you can get. You can easily be swarmed by the enemy, chained into repeat hits, without an invincibility window between animations. Seeing someone darting your way during a grab, or swapping to a weapon in need of a reload because of a reload, dude, you couldn't fire the shotgun any faster. Some attacks can be ducked under or parried, but I found it hard breaking past habits of shooting my way out. Even with their timing down, seeing them in action did leave me thinking of RE3 Remake, and how I wish I had its dodge. Could it break the game? Probably, but seeing your health dwindle by what I've mentioned is how it feels. Bullshit. The combat is addictive, don't get me wrong, but the game does have minor annoyances, like the visibility of certain items. I've run past ammo and first aid sprays because of how well they blend into the environment. In the early game, something that's easy to overlook are bear traps. Damage isn't inflicted, but when they're featured, they're in excess. I've walked into several back-to-back. In contrast to some things covered in white or yellow paint for your attention, it's odd. You want to keep vigilant, consulting your map to see if there's anything you missed, mainly for any treasures, or when you happen upon the merchant, for an elevator into the firing range. You'll be rewarded with coins to buy random perks, hung off your attaché case as charms. I like the arcane nature of it, and the feedback from Ashley if she's spectating.
High score, here we go.
But it's something I skip when replaying the game. The benefits conferred aren't always worthwhile, and the game helps you out anyway. In classic RE4, you couldn't craft ammo, forcing you to shift gears. Now, so long as you have the items and recipe, you can craft your way out. Some bosses even provide intermittent drops. Given the increased aggression in the gameplay and the faster rhythm of the journey itself, it doesn't strike me as bad. It propels you along. The remake treads familiar ground, the village, castle, and island, but like the two preceding remakes, makes some excursions. Some areas have been rearranged where you can spot an old layout, whereas others cut or reimagine altogether, all the while making for a more streamlined experience, while injecting more horror into the mix. Like watching a movie trailer, veterans will go in with an expectation of what's to come, but still be taken by the surprises that connect the scenes. Ada and Lewis, for instance, have been given new segments with Leon and context to what's happening behind the curtains. If there were any gaps in Classic, they feel answered now.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
Some of the original scenarios are remixed enough that I couldn't tell the direction things would go. That includes those with Ashley, who has a new energy that makes her more enchanting. She comes across more as a person. Of course, she still has a section on her own I wish I could skip, and her AI can still lead me to question the intelligence part.
I can't tell if that's meant to be a compliment.
Even so, this iteration is great, even if I didn't mind the original. The same goes for Leon, where he still retains his one-liners and goofiness.
Jumping across chandeliers, seriously, who does that?
What are you, my mother?
But his personality comes across as an extension of his experience in Resident Evil 2. You can tell the past weighs on him. The eras in which both versions of RE4 do exert their influences.
Hasta luego.
But the remakes, like the shared use of the game engine, do feel more and more part of the same world. My favorite trait is Leon's drive, his focus, such as when he encounters the cult leader Sadler. Leon doesn't even bother with an exchange of words, going straight for headshots.
I am Osman Sadler, the speaker for our Lord.
Tell someone who gives a shit.
Speaking of Sadler, his presence has diminished, operating in the shadows until the late game. There are no radio calls, nothing to build his presence. He is a plot device. It doesn't affect my overall opinion of the game. That hinges far more on the gameplay, but it's a definite area where I prefer the original. Going for a more realistic direction and serious tone with the remake, it sets the bar that everything will follow suit. The past did bear more of a campy vibe, but the elements of its world felt cohesive with the approach. In reimagining Resident Evil 4, there are two figures that jar with the idea, so cartoonish in their design that I can't help but wonder, what the hell, Capcom? The Plagas afflicted dogs, and antagonist Ramon Salazar.
Such a fool, Mr. Kennedy.
Look, I'm not averse to the franchise being zany. I played all the core entries other than 6. I'm split on my favorite game, although it's a dart throw on the board of the original trilogy, 0 and RE2 Remake. It's just that when you consider the tone set recently, and nearly all of 4, it does seem Capcom wants to take the franchise to a new space. Some degree of camp is expected, but the initial impression made by these two is that they lean too far. I can't deny having been ambivalent about what to think. Any doubts would be dispelled though, as the game consistently hits the mark. Its blemishes get overshadowed by how strong the game is overall. This is a good remake. Not everything makes a return, but that's more reason to revisit the original. The game stands strong to this day, and if you happen to have the game on PC, it has been exhaustively remastered by fans. The HD project. It's a labor of passion that took years to complete, and it's phenomenal, to the extent of feeling like an official product. A remake shouldn't ever replace what came before, but be a complement with its own to offer. I can say that applies here, with aspects I prefer from both journeys. I'm happy to have the choice. When RE4 was originally released, it was divisive among fans as departing too far from survival horror into action. Now, the transition has been smoothened to appeal more to both sides. When you're on the island, avoiding regenerators, that whole section brought me back to the police station of RE2. It's my favorite part of the game. It took me 15 hours on hardcore to see the credits for a B rank on my first playthrough, an experience I've enjoyed enough to do 2 more on standard, netting an A and S+ rank. The fact I jumped in on a 4th on professional shows how I feel about the game. Mercenaries arrived as a free DLC, a fan-favorite mode that sees arcade mechanics in place as we survive an enemy onslaught. At launch, there are 3 stages, named after the main locations of the game. It's a fun time with extra characters to unlock, each with unique equipment and a special ability in Mayhem mode, a Super Saiyan state. Capcom has also made it easier to unlock the hand cannon by accruing an S rank in each stage. Before, you had to complete the game on Professional, the hardest difficulty, which is the real deal. The idea of things being easier does extend into my criticisms about Mercenaries as it stands. It's too lenient in grading for high ranks. Score is the sole dictate, not weighed against anything else. You can easily be caught amid chainsaws, dismembered into an S rank. It trivializes good performance. The highest rank is S++, which will require a minimal score of 1 million, which isn't difficult to obtain. Within my first hour, I had already done so for Leon in the 3 stages. Mercenaries could use some revision, but it's a fun time nonetheless. The original RE4 did feature a few more things to keep players entertained, one being separate ways. It allowed us to experience what Ada was up to during the events of the main game. There are signs that it's forthcoming, so I am curious what direction it'll take, as Capcom has shown how they can edit a framework. For now, in addition to Mercenaries, there's an extra content shop where weapons, costumes, cosmetic items with and without passive effects, concept art, as well as models can be purchased. As you play through the game, meaning in-game achievements, you gain the currency. The idea is cool but holds no incentive to me. The gameplay is the only reason I need to keep coming back. I'm going to conclude it here. Resident Evil 4 is a good remake. I can't wait to see what the future holds in its future. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you have any thoughts, please leave a comment, or if you found potential in me and what I could produce, please subscribe. Once more, thank you all, and have a good one.